Can you talk about the ethnicities of the peoples you're collecting from in Peru and in China?
In China, I collected from the minority people, as mentioned above. Some of these people were on more of a cash economy than others. If they were on a cash economy, they might be buying their cotton and spinning it in China, or they might even be buying industrial yarns and just doing the weaving. In Hainandao, at the upper reaches, where people had very little to do with cash, they were still harvesting hemp plants and beating the stems to loosen the fibers, using those fibers, using natural dyes. In other words, they produced every part of it without spending any money. There's also kapok trees, which they call cotton trees, that thrive in Hainan. Some people were spinning and weaving with that cotton from the kapok trees. But Hainan was rather varied. Of course, it used to be dominated by these Li people, whose work I was collecting, but centuries ago, Han people captured parts of the coast. It was part of the spice trade. It was on the route of spice trade ships, so it had old communication with Indonesia and Sumatra, other islands. It had quite a different history than the interior minority people in China.
Were they encountered by the Dutch East India Company, that Europeans essentially, and as well?
I don't know whether they had contact with Europeans. They seem to be more aligned with other island cultures. They used tattoos until independence in 1948. Older women were still tattooed before that time. I mean, women were tattooed, and I met older women who had been tattooed before 1948. So their cultures were influenced by other island cultures.
Was this something they would do themselves, or were there tattoo artists?
Don't know. I mean, language only goes so far.
Right.
And my language there was limited.
What patterns did they have tattooed on them? Were they tattooed all over their body?
The patterns in Hainan on the Li women were quite interesting to me, and I took some shots, although they were usually shy to be photographed, in that the patterns began perhaps like at the hand and went up the forearm up to the point where the garment would begin. And the same with their legs. Below the skirt, the pattern started, and the patterns being complementary to those woven into the textiles. They also had tattooing on their face. So a very complex and complete set of markings.
That's a whole new definition of accessorizing.
Yeah.
And it's almost the opposite of what you usually see, which is that you tattoo under where the clothing would go, so you're not going to see it if you're, sort of in a professional workplace or something like that.
Except in Portland, of course.
Except in Portland, which is